Welcome, everyone, to another broadcast of The Soul of the Everyman on the Artist First Radio Network. All past shows are podcasts. Pick them up at artistfirst.com. We welcome your questions and comments. Please use DJ at artistfirst.com. And now, your hosts, Michael and Margaret Lyons.
And thank you very much, Z-Man. And I'm Michael Lyons.
Mm-hmm. And I'm Margaret.
And we are 100% silkier tonight.
Yes.
Can you guys tell? We have a brand new Windows 11 400, 300, 765 computer. So all our bits are coming at you at lightning speed, like at warp 10.
Okay.
Can you feel it? I can feel it.
It's just clarity.
Clarity. So we're coming at you at warp 10, and we are going to bring hell.
Oh, yes. I wanted to make sure you had the experience of walking through hell with us.
That's our topic. So tonight's topic, we are going to be talking about walking through hell, and we have direct and intimate experience with that, but our topic is walking through hell for dummies.
Like us.
Like us. And we have a quote, and let's just. I think the quote sets the whole tone for the whole thing. You want to go for it?
I can do that.
Let's do it.
When you walk through hell with someone, you burn too. Flames don't respect your privacy, your boundaries. They consume your time, torch your dignity, and turn your peace of mind to ashes. And it's a quote from someone called Kennedy Ryan.
Who I had never heard of before, but it's a very prescient and a very I believe you could say that this person, whether it's true or not, but it appears that this person probably went through some hell, because this sentiment. Let me just back up a little bit. When you've not gone through hell, and hell can be defined in many ways, and you've read books about it, and you think you know, you can't come up with something a quote like this, Margaret. You can't. You'll say something like, it's so terrible, and
you can't imagine this.
Yes.
It's like I'm walking. Okay, this person that I love is suffering.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to be there for them, and I'm going to try to help as much as I can.
Give them advice and things.
Well, just, like I'm going to do what I can. But that's you thinking of it.
Right.
When you're actually walking through a process, that's going to test the very fabric of the being, the heart of this person. You don't realize how much suffering you yourself go through as you watch the person you love suffer. That's what it means to burn.
And you can go through, hell yourself, but I think in some ways it can be even more difficult to go through it with another, as Margaret said, another person that you love. But the point that she's making here is it strikes to the heart, because it has a truth to it, and the heart recognizes truth. When you say, it turns your peace of mind to ashes. The ego is very much concerned with its own little peace of mind, if you will. It likes everything in order. It likes everything to be thus and so. We're going to go here on Tuesday. We're going to go there next month. We're planning this vacation. We have this 401k, all these things. And its quote-unquote peace of mind is really mostly that it believes at the moment in time that it's in control, that everything is going the way it likes, and it's very much concerned about what it likes and what it doesn't like. And it's very much concerned with order. Everything should be in the order that I want it to be. It should be, this should happen first and this second, and I don't want this, so this shouldn't happen, and this should happen, and Everything has to be, sort of vetted through this idea of its idea of the mind, of the proper execution of life.
Well, it believes that if it thinks about it and has considered it and has, in its own estimation, taken care of it. In other words, this is something that I have already planned for. So if this happens, I have this insurance to cover it.
Right, the contingencies are all there.
And you believe, off of that, and we all do this. We're like, okay, well, that's been taken care of. I'll put this to the side.
Right, check it off.
And the interesting part about it is that when that little thing, it could be something very small, but when that doesn't happen, or there's been something that has happened that you were told, let's say, for instance, the insurance, oh, no worries, the insurance will cover that. Then you find out your insurance isn't covering that. Oh.
Mm-hmm.
And now you are having to pay for thousands of dollars for something that you thought your insurance covered. That represents the way our minds are working. Because in the back of your head, you're thinking, well, I paid attention to that. I took care of that. I was told that this was covered. And gee, it's not.
And the interesting thing about that, Margaret, is exactly that. The I here that's saying I thought and I did and I assumed and this was checked off, that's all the ego.
Yes.
And hell has no respect for the ego. When people talk about hell, they're talking about metaphorical flames, devils, pitchforks, etc. That's not hell. Hell is, Margaret mentioned earlier, hell is a form of it is taking you from the ego environment where you think everything's taken care of and the boxes are checked off and I have the right insurances and I have all my peace of mind, everything is exactly the order, and it literally strips that away, and then the suffering begins not necessarily because of the circumstance, although that certainly is the beginning of the suffering. The trigger is the circumstance happens. Reality comes in. As Margaret just mentioned, it's a reality check. You thought it was covered, but it's not. Reality comes in. The suffering begins because the ego reacts to that in the way that again, Margaret just described. I thought that was taken care of, and now I am being now I'm being discomforted. My appreciation of the world is now wrong. Now, why?
I didn't have control.
I didn't have control. And the first thing is, why me? This ego rant of just saying, I took care of this, and I had all the insurance, and the whole chimera, the whole persona, this whole construct, this mental machine that the ego has created, this entity, starts getting torn down. And what is revealed by that is this emptiness. Those ego entities have nothing inside. They're literally just hot air balloons, and they pop. And the ego starts to suffer in that moment because it doesn't have control. It feels suddenly afraid, and it feels angry, and it starts the why me, and why not them, and I don't like this, and how can I deal with that? And well, this whole entity is torn away. It feels existential.
Well, it believes that because it's controlling it, I'm going to take care of it so I have the least amount of discomfort.
Mm-hmm.
It believes that. But when it finds out it doesn't, then it's sitting there going, wait a minute, I should have control.
Yeah.
If I consider it enough, I should have control. It's not that I didn't consider it. I did consider it. But see, this is where the issue of believing that you are in charge of the outcome comes into play. That's the illusion, that you somehow control outcomes. And you're smart enough to consider every possibility. Oh, it could be, make sure I have this, or I can do that, or contingency plans. I've thought it through. We've done it so many times, and now because I've learned from this possibility can come in, and I can cover it, and I can cover that, and I can cover that, and without making room for the fact that, you know what, the situation can change at a drop of a hat, and the whole floor that you thought you were standing on can suddenly shift or drop, and you have no floor to stand on. Now that's frightening for most people.
And it's lovely if you look at I lost Kennedy Ryan's quote. She says it very, very nicely. The flames don't respect your privacy, your boundaries. They consume your time. These are all the ego things. Privacy. Remember when we were in Sloan, you particularly. Privacy. There was no privacy whatsoever. You were the only thing that separated you from the other suffering penitent in the room was a paper thin curtain. She even says your dignity. What a lovely ego word dignity is. People want to do everything with dignity. Dignity. There is no actual dignity in life. There's no actual dignity in the universe. It's a complete mental construct. And hell has no respect. Suffering has no respect for your privacy. That lovely thing.
It doesn't exist.
Your boundaries. Boundaries, Margaret. The ego has boundaries. It has boxes. It has little walls and little things that are, this only comes during, this only can happen between 8 a.m. and 8:30 p.m. It can't happen in the middle of the night, and it's after business hours, and I'm trying to have my lunch now, I can't be dealing with that. No, there are no boundaries. And in the real universe, there are no boundaries. There's no time when, as you just said, when the floor can just drop out from underneath you. But the ego doesn't want to deal with that. Doesn't want to think about that.
Well, just the belief that you can, just because the night has fallen, you'll be able to sleep and then attend to the next day, and maybe things will be better the next day.
Well, I can't deal with that right now. Could you send me an invite on your calendar for 9 a.m. tomorrow morning? I'll take care of it then.
Yeah, and just
no.
It's not just like being in a cancer ward. I had a friend who basically had said she's going through labor.
Yeah.
And it was pretty intense. And towards the end there, she was just so tired because it was taking time. So she turned to, I think it was a midwife or someone, and said, the midwife's telling her, push. You have to push. She looks at her and said, just give me 10 minutes. And then I'll have,
just need 10 minutes.
And I can have more strength to do this. And the midwife looked at her and said, push.
There's no 10 minutes.
Your body is already pushing. Push. And it's like, oh my, are you not following the dictates of your body? Because you're sitting there believing that somehow you're going to control this. Birth happens. It's not something that you control. So
that's perfect, Margaret, because people read. I'm sure this is very well intentioned. People write books about pregnancy and about all that, and I have no referent. But the point is people will read these books or take these Lamaze classes or whatever, and then they think, oh yeah, I know what's going to happen. I'm sorry, no, not right now. You see, I'm a little tired right now. I can't push right now. Can you push? There's the body and the universe does not care. And there's another form. We say walking through hell for dummies. Well, there's another hell that I just would mention in passing because you brought up labor. there's children. Children are a form of hell because when you have children, they don't respect your privacy, your boundaries. They will consume your time and torch your dignity because children, especially young children, do not care at 3 a.m. that you are tired and you've got to get up in the morning, you've got to go to work. No, they're hungry. They got a poopy diaper. They are going to scream bloody murder until you get up. And then if they have colic, for argument's sake, like people that potentially could have had a child that had colic for, let's say just pick a number out of a hat, 9 months. And then you just sit, you and your significant other just kind of handed this poor suffering child back and forth through the night for those 9 months, patiently waiting for him to feel better. And that was a form of hell. And that form of hell that people put themselves through because children are wonderful and they're our legacy and they're our future, and I could sing a song now, but that is a form of hell because it is not. If you have read a book about parenting and all the things and the labor and no, children are reality. Children do not care that it's 3 a.m. Children do not care that you've got something else that you've got to take care of in the morning. No. They are immediate now reality people.
Well, this is your first. Usually, this is your first experience of having to sacrifice anything that you might want to do, or comfort of any kind, dignity of any kind.
Dignity. Can you imagine dignity as a parent?
No. And never mind peace of mind. Peace of mind. I just laugh.
Yeah.
It's like, you get very active children, and all they know is they're going to live, and you might be there to stop them.
Right.
So, very interesting. It teaches you a lot about yourself and about humanity. But when you really begin to understand that you're not in control, I mean, honestly, as parents, you're thinking, okay, this is par for the course. You got to do this. You got to make allowances, et cetera, et cetera. But when you get to a point when you realize that there are situations out in life that you really don't have control over, and they can affect people, your children, people that you love, people that are close to you. And you understand you've got to walk with them through this, especially if it's your child. You must walk with them through this. There's nobody else that they can turn to. And it doesn't matter if suddenly you're sensitive and this is horrible. Why is this happening to our family? Why is my child sick?
The whys don't matter, but the ego loves to throw them up there.
Well, it's usually the first reaction. I can't tell you how many times that it's usually the moms that are in the cancer wards with the kids. And if the mom is too embroiled in, you're a good girl. I don't know why this is happening. Why is this happening? And crying, and in the meantime, the team that's trying to save your child's life is trying to get you to understand that you need to go through this procedure right now for the sake of your child. Perhaps to bring counts down so that the child's blood doesn't turn white, let's say if they have leukemia, and there's no red blood cells that can bring oxygen to the body. They need you to make a decision. They need you in the present moment of now. We understand that you're upset, but you need to make this decision. And they're like, well, how can I make this decision? I don't have the expertise. Can't you guys make that decision for us? See, this is walking in hell. Because you want to believe that the decisions that are going to be made are going to be done by the experts and they'll save your child. Truth of the matter is, you're the one that has to make the decision. And you are the one that is going to watch your child reap the repercussions of your decision. That reality usually sends adults into a basket. How can I make this decision? I can't make this decision. Meanwhile, your child's life is slipping away. Strength is ebbing. They need you to make a decision right now. What will you do?
Well, I mean, there's that. Certainly, that's the reality. That that's the form of suffering that you're going through somebody with. What you mentioned earlier is what I wanted to go back to. The presence of mind is exactly what's getting run over. If you're walking through hell, and walking through hell for dummies is really exactly that. The first thing that you do is you lose your presence of mind. You get completely caught up in you. I'm suffering. I'm the one who's being, why me? That litany, the why me litany, when it's actually somebody that you're, as you mentioned, your child that's actually going through it. The why me litany takes the whole focus away from the actual situation, what you are really going through. You have to make an actual decision. It has real repercussions. You can't, the first instinct of the ego is to find somebody else to do it. It must be someone else's fault. Someone else can take over this decision. Someone else can actually be responsible. That's the first reaction. The presence of mind that you're talking about, the actual requirement is that you no longer focus on you, that you focus on the situation, that you deal with the actual reality. You do what Tolle says is the very first thing is you do is you have to surrender to reality. The ego doesn't want to do that. The ego wants to find any way to get away from reality and back to the comfortable peace of mind, the comfortable order, the comfortable this first and that first.
The predictability.
The predictability. The
belief that somehow you control it, that you know how it's going to go. I know how this is going to go.
Right.
And you don't.
And you don't, and if you... I'm sorry, go ahead.
And it's very hard to face that reality. Very hard, because this is the hell that we are speaking of. Yes, you may have already said, okay, I can't control things. But when you see the direct results of decisions, and you haven't walked through that self-reflection, realizing that, yes, the decisions are going to affect your child, but who's first on your consideration list? Is it you that's first in your comfort and you don't like it? Or is it the fact that your child is the one that is going to be experiencing this, suffering through this? Who's important? Your response or your child's?
Well, I mean, exactly that. Maybe we should back up a little bit because we've kind of put the situation in perspective. So the very first thing about walking through hell is that you can't avoid it. The ego would love to be able to get out of it, love to be able to get out of the responsibility, but in fact, the actual illusion is that you do have control. The actual illusion is that bad things only happen to other people.
Yes.
The actual illusion is that if I haven't scheduled it, or if I haven't considered it, or if I haven't made a contingency plan for it, it can't happen. And I've been good. That's the other thing. We haven't
yes.
touched upon that. I've been good. I mean, you mentioned it actually a moment ago. You don't deserve this, you say to your child, or I don't deserve this. I've been good. The person who deserves this is this person over there. They're way too rich and they've got all this time on their hands.
Or they're way too poor.
Or well, I mean, they certainly have been much worse than I have. They've been smoking and drinking and carrying on. They deserve the cancer. They deserve the hard time. They deserve the punishment. I've been good. But hell, and I want to recast the word hell here, because hell, as I mentioned, it's not demons and pitchforks. Hell is, metaphorically, is where we live. This place is a reality. This place is an actual physical manifestation. It's a creation. We are incarnate within this creation. We are spirit in flesh, which is incarnation, which gives us a soul, which inhabits that body. But we are in a form of hell because we don't control this place. Hell is the wrong word, because hell has this sort of inimical attitude towards it. It's almost like it's out to get you. Reality isn't out to get you, but it also doesn't care. Truly, in truth, the ego is lying to you when it says that you can plan things out and that you can have all the contingency plans made, and you can do the right thing and have the right investments and all, and that'll be fine. Everything will be good. That's the lie. The truth of it is you can do all those things, and then one day, for no particular reason at all, there's a lump on your child's neck. No reason at all, and you go, that's odd. I wonder what that could be. Maybe we should get that checked out. And you go to the doctor, and they look at it, and they say, yeah, that's odd. We should do some tests. And they do those tests, and the results come back, and they're sort of weird and inconclusive. And they go, maybe you should stay overnight. And you stay overnight, and the next night, and the next night. And you don't get to go to your baseball game, and you don't get to go and invest in your 401k, and you don't make the appointment that you made next week, and you have to start talking to your insurance company about what exactly will you pay for? Oh, you don't pay for that? And then they say, well, we really can't figure this out. We want to send you to another doctor, another place. And then they say, but it's probably fine. It's probably okay. And the ego seizes upon, it's probably fine. It's probably okay. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. And you go to the other place, and you check in the middle of the night, completely strange place, maybe 30, 40, 50 miles away from your house. And they say, well, we're going to run some tests. And, we're going to check out things. And don't worry, you'll be fine. But, we want you to take some blood work, and it looks a little weird, so we're gonna talk to these people, and we're gonna consult, and all the while the ego's just screaming, "Why me?" That's a form of hell, and that's where we live. It's really where we live. We really live in an uncaring, in the best possible way. The universe isn't out to get you, but it isn't going to do you any favors. It isn't here to obey your will. You're not subject to it. We are in creation. We are not of creation. We are souls incarnate in bodies, but we're subject to that which is reality. And we have one superpower that we often misuse and often neglect. And the one superpower is to say, accepting the reality, and then what am I going to do about it next? Not outcomes, but reactions, experience in the moment,
not reactions.
And very importantly, very, very importantly, you're right. Decisions.
Decisions, not reactions. You choose. Reactions are just, well, this is what we always do.
You choose how you react, and you choose what you're going to do. But you do. It is not. You're absolutely right. It is not a reflex. It is a choice. Always a choice. But you have to be present in the moment of now to choose truly and consciously, not unconsciously and reactively.
And that's the beginning of your journey.
And that's the beginning.
Now, I have a definition, the definition of hell.
Ooh. Well, go for that.
Okay. Noun.
Excuse me. Noun.
A place of eternal punishment for the wicked after death, often imagined as being presided over by Satan and his devils. 2. A state of separation from God, exclusion from God's presence. 3. The abode of the dead in any of various religious traditions, such as the Hebrew Sheol or the Greek Hades, the underworld. 4. A situation or place of evil, misery, discord, or destruction. 5. An extremely difficult experience, torment, or anguish. And 6. The spirits in hell or powers of hell. And the quote is, all hell could not stop him. This is the definition.
Well, I think the 5th one, if I'm not mistaken, is very, very close to what I would say is what we're talking about here. The situations are difficult.
Okay, but as you said, the world itself is not out to get you. But there is evil in the world. Make no mistake about it. And evil wants to preside in people's lives.
True.
Okay? To understand that that does exist. And it's capable of existing in this, on this particular plane.
Yeah. And well, without, I would digress a little bit, but you're right. Evil, there is certainly forces within this reality which are out to get you. And sometimes they're human and sometimes they're not. But the hell that we're talking about here is largely self-created.
It is your reaction to the situation. If you realize that your reaction is what brings about a state of hell or a state of peace. Okay, and this is, and I'm jumping ahead, mind you, but you need to understand that you can live in a state of torment or peace by the way you look and choose to respond to what's presented in front of you.
I don't think that's jumping ahead. I think that's exactly where we are, because we've been talking about hell, and we're talking about what we're, the reality is that here doesn't care about you, and here can present you with hell. But the key word here, rather the key word now in this discussion, is walking through hell. There's 3 words, but the key concept is walking through hell. And Margaret just said it. If your ego is giving you hell, in other words, you're actually reacting into a state of hell. The ego, unfortunately, does 2 things. It does that. It reacts and presents you with hell because it says, why me, why me, why me? But it's also doing something incredibly counterproductive. The ego sits down and sets up camp in hell. It doesn't walk through hell. It dwells. It dwells upon hell. It says, why me? And sticks itself in the situation. It looks at the past. It literally clings to that which is not. The is not is the ego's idea of what should be. And why isn't it And couldn't it be that person? And why not that one who did this? And I don't like this. You know what that is? You know what that is? That's setting up camp, putting down roots, and living in hell in the moment. And that is exactly what you should not do. If you live in the moment of now, the moment of now has hell in it once in a while. But you have that moment to realize that it is this moment alone that has hell in it. And then the next moment is going to be different. Maybe it's more hell, but don't set up camp and dwell upon what is not.
No.
Don't dwell upon what has happened or what could have happened, the future and the past. You have to walk. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, when you're walking through hell, keep moving. If you stop, you will be burned up.
Very true.
No, seriously. You have to understand that this is a process. And with all processes, you want it to stop, but the only way to make an end is by walking through.
Right.
Stopping in the middle and expecting it all to resolve itself in your favor is foolishness. It just means you're going to be burning even more. So it depends on whether or not you're aware enough to understand that, yeah, it hurts, but I'm not going to reside here. I will not abide here. I must go forward. Process. You don't know the end point, but you know there is an end point. Maybe that's the best way to put it.
Mm. I believe, we have the direct experience in going through the process we went through with Christopher, and going to Memorial Sloan Kettering, and the description of being taken in for tests, and then going to a new place, and eventually ending up with a diagnosis. If you wanted to sit and dwell in that hell, you would do nothing for that child, because hell is a personal thing. Hell can't help anybody. If you're focusing on you, and in fact focusing upon your discomfort, your pain, your past, your future, everything that's happening to you, the child gets nothing from that. Instead, if you walk through hell, you say, yeah, this is where we are. I have to be present in this fire and move through it and help this other, this little one or this parent or this whomever it is, as they experience it directly. You experience it too. You're, as this quote says, you burn too, because you burn to the extent that your love connects you to that other. But what happens when you accept it? You say, here is where we are, and Christopher accepts it. This is where I am. You realize that the being becomes revealed. That the being in that moment of hell frees itself from it. It says, this is not who I am. This is just what is happening. And what is happening then becomes almost irrelevant. It isn't that it isn't happening. It's happening. But it is an experience that the being is going through as a whole being. And you find from moment to moment that the essential importance of the moment of now, that you experience it, becomes the peace of the moment of now. Margaret said it earlier. There's a decision to be made. You make the decision and you move on. The decision is made. There's a procedure that has to happen. You go through the procedure and you move on. You take another step onto what is in essence unknown, but that step moves you on, and there's joy in that. It's so weird because people say, "Oh, how can you find any joy in hell?" Because you do. because life is. Because once you go through the procedure, there's a cookie or a video game or something that you want to do. Go ahead, Mom. Sorry.
Joy is an internal state of being
Yeah.
that is not dependent on your situation. And going through exceedingly difficult times, you realize the sweetness of life.
Mm.
And that sweetness can only be found in the moment that you are there with the one you love. Nothing can deny that from you. And you participate together. Now, whether or not the moment contains trial or pain or moments of enjoyment and peace is almost moot, because you realize how precious those moments actually are. That was one of the discussions that the mothers and I would have, what you wouldn't give for another day to be with your child again. Even if it was a not so good day.
Mm.
But it was still another day. And you can't explain that to people, because they sit there and they go, oh no, you can't mean that. They think that that final separation is somehow manageable. Oh yeah, you look like you're managing. But they don't understand that the internal hell that you are in, the vastness of the hole that's in your heart, you have no words to explain to them. Try to get them to understand. They believe they can understand. The ones that are more introspective will say to you, I don't know what you're going through.
Exactly.
And I'm just here for you. That's the extent of the experience. You're there for and with the other. And it is the greatest gift that you could possibly give to another human being.
Mm.
Is to be there, present, with them and for them. And be willing to go through hell or heaven, whatever it may be.
Mm.
Because the love that is within you is expressing itself and connecting up to the heart of the other. And they suddenly realize, I'm not going through this alone. Someone loves me.
Mm.
Loves me enough to be there with me.
And it's love. I mean, love is exactly the thing. That's what you just said is not only that they experience that they are loved enough that you suffer along with them, but that's the whole connection. If you stay in that state, in the I love this other enough, and we can take it out of the cancer wards. If you're I love this other enough to get up at 3 a.m. when I have to get up at 6 to go to work the next day anyway, and stay up half the night because they're uncomfortable and they don't know why. And in that being moment of now, you're there because you love them and you're there with them in that experience. So, when you're a parent, there are many moments of hell where the ego is stripped down and stripped away. If you really are going through them with the other, you realize that this is the most important thing. If you're in the cancer wards, it's easy. The ego wants to run away. The ego wants to do anything else but be there. But if you have that love connection, the being state of love, You're there. You're present. You can do anything. Mother Teresa often, said that when she had the experience of being in the deepest, darkest, most gritty slums of Calcutta, that the only thing that she was there for was to be a witness and to give love to these beings who felt that they were completely unlovable, rejected by all.
Right.
They were the untouchables.
Right.
They were to be ignored, shunned, to die in the gutter and have their bodies just sloughed away like trash.
Right. To die in the gutter. Can you imagine that society throws you in with the trash and you're still alive?
Yeah.
So, yeah, you die there. And she saw their humanity.
Right. And
was able to gather them up.
Yeah.
Put them on a cot. And yes, they're dying, but her stories of the fact that they look at her and say, thank you for letting me die as a human being. Because there's the other truth. Death doesn't matter at that point. It's the decision and how you do things, how you meet your death. These people didn't meet their death as a piece of trash in the gutter side of the road. They met their death as
in love.
Yes, as a human being. And to give that grace to another human being, it's so precious. It's so precious.
And that's walking through hell. I mean, you could say, well, Mother Teresa is now Saint Mother Teresa, or however she's referred to. But the fame is not why she did it. The fact the sainthood is not why she did it. And people who have children and they're up at 3 a.m. and handing a child back and forth in love, that's not why they're doing it. That's an act that could be considered saintly. You're doing it because the love connection in that moment of now strips away the ego. Mother Teresa's, the ego would say, well, what are you doing associating yourself with, in essence, the untouchables, the to be shunned, the never to be even acknowledged, the subhuman, the trash of society? Why would you ever even associate yourself with that? The ego says, no. In the reality of the experience of now, you look at that other and say, that is me. You look at your child and say, that suffering of this child, when connected to my being by love, is me. When you're with the other and you realize that you're both walking through this hell together, you pick them up. Okay, these folks who were suffering in the streets of Calcutta were suffering in a hell, not necessarily only because they were in the gutter and physically suffering, but because they had considered themselves to be in the state of almost deserving this. I am subhuman. My ego says that this is what I deserve. My society says this. And someone comes down and literally calls forth the being and says, no, you are loved. I will sit with you. We are in this hell together. We're going to walk through it. And the next decision won't be that your ego says or your society says that you are subhuman. The next thing that will happen is that I will see you as a being, that our connection will be spirit to spirit. That, yeah, you're in hell, but all of us are. That your suffering is our suffering. That this is the common dream, if you will. you then can pick that person up who is dwelling in hell, who has set up camp in hell through their ego, break that attachment, because that's what it is. It's an attachment to hell. Break it and say, walk with me into the next moment. Yeah, maybe the next few moments of the walk end with that person's corporeal existence going into back into spirit. They leave. But that wasn't the important thing. Margaret said it last week or the week before. It's not life and death. It's birth and death. Life is what you're doing right now. And looking at that other in being state and taking them out of the moment out of the dwelling in hell and saying, stand up, walk with me into the next moment, be with me, I'll be with you. And they suddenly realize that is now the connection, being to being. You get back all these things that Kennedy Ryan said we lost. Your privacy, your boundaries, your time, your dignity. But they aren't related to the hell at all anymore. The privacy is the privacy of the uniqueness of your being. The boundaries are who you actually are, and that you can talk across that pathway of love with that other being, that you have a relationship now.
Well, the boundaries have become porous.
Yeah.
You realize it's only a mind-created boundary.
Exactly.
Because love does not have boundaries. If it's true love, unconditional love has no boundaries. That experience, to experience true unconditional love, a love that just loves because there's no reason for it. Love is there, it exists. You're touching on the very core of existence itself. And most people say, oh, well, now you're getting philosophical or romantic. But to understand that the boundaries are an illusion by our own minds, that for our comfort we say, okay, well, I'm going to put a definition over here. Definitions are boundaries, by the way. And because of that particular definition, things are going to run a certain way. So my definition for, let's say, the societal definition for that person was untouchable. So therefore you're at the bottom of the barrel.
Subhuman.
And you do not rate any kind of consideration whatsoever. Even some of the animals are above you. That kind of definition, you yourself have got to come to the understanding that you are more than that. Is that what you're experiencing right now? Is that what you want to experience? You may say, no, I don't. But you're going to have to take a step outside of the societal definition then. Take a step outside the societal mores or how they've already set up things.
Well, isn't that the camp? That's the cage. That's where they're putting you in hell. It's the same thing with the cancer kids in many ways. If society says you have cancer, then they're putting you into hell. They're saying that's your camp. You just stay right there. You're a cancer kid, or you're a cancer person. They want it to be your identity because then it's not them. They want the untouchables to be untouchable because then it's not them.
Well, it means that they're better.
They're better.
There's got to be somebody I'm better than.
Well, also and better than, but you're saying you're pushing that away because they deserve that. Instead, Mother Teresa, through love, goes down there and says, you are a being, which breaks that whole ego construct. It says that this could be you, and the ego hates that. This could be me. No, yes, this could be you. The cancer kid, when you put them into that cage and say this is your hell and you have to stay there, it's safe for everyone. Oh, well, they must have done something. It must run in your family, right? It must be something running in your family. You must have not considered something, or you probably didn't realize that you had this sort of predilection, or, you shouldn't have smoked those cigarettes. Yeah. In fact, the reality is, it could happen to you. Oh, that's scary. And the reality is that you yourself are a being in this hell, and this hell doesn't care. That's not your identity. That's just your situation. When the ego sees that, it gets very, very scared. But in truth, if you embrace that, pick that person up and say, let's walk through this hell together, and who knows where it will be the next moment. The next moment, your cancer is gone. It doesn't define you anymore. It doesn't put you in that hell. The next moment of this untouchable being, they may discorporate. They may go back to spirit. It doesn't matter.
No. In fact, holding space for another that you are walking with through hell is the greatest gift for them and one of the greatest experiences you and the other could possibly have. People wonder, what is my purpose? Purpose is to be a witness for others.
And there's joy in that.
Yes. And I believe we've reached the end of our hour.
We have.
So I'm Margaret.
And I'm Michael.
And thank you for walking with us this evening.